Welcome to the Ego versus EQ and You podcast, where we discuss the key aspects of emotional intelligence and ways to apply it in everyday living. Now let's work together to make common sense more common. Welcome back to Ego versus EQ and You and our Versus series. I am so happy to have my two co-hosts with me in studio today. I have Steve Friedline and Angela Baer. Welcome.
Thank you, Jen.
So happy to have you here. And continuing on in our Versus series, I thought today would be fun to talk about impulse control versus stress tolerance and where those two intersect.
Yes.
Big ones.
Very big ones.
To me, when it comes to almost like career derailment or employees that end up somewhere struggling in trouble, or even us in life with our relationships, these two are like a bomb that can go off and really derail some very important relationships. If you have no impulse control or your stress tolerance is off, like they're really important pieces, I think, of EQ.
Agreed. And
Right.
I think it's important to define the connection first that they have. In some of our other Versus series, introvert versus extrovert, those are distinct opposites.
Yeah.
But once you look at stress tolerance and impulse control, they're not really opposites, but
No.
they definitely are connected and tie in together.
That's a good point, yeah. Because they're not opposites.
No, they're not. I can speak from a personal standpoint because my impulse control personally is higher than my stress tolerance. And I tend to be that person in a meeting where I listen and the meeting is going on and I'm processing things in my head, and then the next subject comes and I still haven't said anything, and then the meeting continues on and I may or may not have put forth some ideas, and then the meeting is over and it's like I stress myself out because I didn't say what was on my mind, and now it's like, okay, it's too late. Okay, so once again, being able to speak in the moment, but I think that's an example of where too much impulse control can cause us to stress ourselves.
Yes.
Interesting. I think, we often associate impulse control with low impulse control.
That's exactly what
Impulsiveness.
Yes.
Right.
Spontaneous reaction, rash decision making, in a hurry
Yes.
to just move forward and get something done,
Yes.
which is all low impulse control. Right. And we see that as very, I think, destructive at times.
Right.
But too much impulse control can be as challenging.
Yeah, I talk to a lot of people that do struggle with a lot of impulse control.
Mm-hmm.
The not being able to say what they need to say at the given moment when it comes up in a meeting, because there's a process going on and that impulse is holding me
Or
back.
they're overthinking it.
Exactly. That's the other side of it.
Mm-hmm.
That's the other side of it, yes.
So you mentioned impulsivity and spontaneity. The connection then between stress tolerance and impulsiveness is the coping mechanism. Spontaneity, impulsiveness, I think that's how we're used to thinking of it. We feel stress and we have to mitigate the stress, so we do that impulsive thing to have immediate gratification because we're geared up for fight or flight. The amygdala is triggered. We have a lot of physiological things happening in the body, and we have to get rid of that somehow. What do we do? And so
The Nordstrom app, you mean?
I'm sorry?
Via the Nordstrom app?
Yes. Yes, the Nordstrom app.
Impulsive shopping?
Yes, I had one coachee said, my wife always knows when I've had a terrible day because we have a giant mountain of Amazon boxes that show up outside the door the next day. And what happens when we have the inverse of that, right? The high impulse control, think of it this way. You've got a backpack and the backpack is empty.
I love this analogy. This is
And you put a 5-pound brick in the backpack and you put the backpack on and you say, I can, that backpack, I feel it, I know it's there. You're aware of it. But if you wore that backpack for a week and never took it off, you would start to forget. You would not notice it until you take the backpack off. And then you kind of stretch and you say, wow, didn't realize how heavy that backpack was. But what do? We open the backpack and see the brick. Do we take it out? No. We say, there's more room. Let's put another brick in. So that's what that high impulse control is doing. We are internalizing. We are suppressing. We are essentially pushing the mute button repeatedly on our body until it has to have such a big moment that we can't ignore it anymore. I had a really great moment of being able to tell one of our coachees that is European what going postal means, because they did not know of that
reference.
Yes, that reference.
That is an American reference, I
Yes.
guess, isn't it? Yes. Which I guess we should define what that means, right?
Yes. So that's
for our
exactly
listeners
that.
from the
When
UK.
when the body, when you can't push the mute button anymore, and it has to come out, and when that does happen for those with very high impulse control and low stress tolerance, it's going to be big. It often is going to be physical. It could be an ulcer. It could be high blood pressure. It could be a very explosive, out of character emotional moment that just where everybody does one of those whiplash moments. Whoa, what just happened? And so that's kind of what that going postal term refers to, as the postal workers back in the 80s, and they were feeling underappreciated, underpaid, and they just started losing it all over the place. And it was
It became a term.
it became
a
defining term of
acronym for
the
it.
times.
You know, in defense of stress, in and of itself, it's not a bad thing.
Correct.
I mean, we all need a little bit of stress or tension in order to function effectively. And the interesting thing is that's a different level for all of us. Some people have a whole lot more ability to tolerate a lot of things going on at the same time, whereas other people might be incapable of moving forward if they have too many things happening while they're trying to do one thing. And so I think just having that awareness to know I'm reaching that point where something's got to give.
Yes.
And that's what you were referring to. Something's got to give. I need to know when that buildup is making a reference in my life that if I don't do something to reduce my stress or at least raise my awareness to it, I'm going to say or do something I'll regret.
Well, to me, stress tolerance covers or influences all of the EQ skills. When my stress tolerance is low, my tolerance for stress is low, I'm not going to be as flexible. I'm going to not have as good of relationships. I am not going to
Solve
have the
problems
self-regard,
effectively.
right? I'm not going to be doing problem solving well. It's going to affect, my optimism is going to
Yes.
take a hit, right? It is one that overarches, I think, all of the EQ skills.
Right. Yes.
How about the tie into emotional expression?
Yes.
And those with high emotional expression, we mentioned in one of our previous episodes about emotional expression and emotional self-awareness. If you have someone high on emotional expression and they are under stress, so now they're emoting even more without having that awareness to know, is this being directed at the correct person at the correct moment? How do they navigate that? And what do you do? What do you do when you're on the other end of that?
I know.
How do you handle that situation? Do you just
Right.
say, calm down?
Well,
Is
yeah,
that
I
what you
think-
should say?
Yeah. Would it be fair to say that people with low impulse control tend to stress other people out, and people
Yeah.
with low stress tolerance tend to stress themselves out?
I guess it depends on how that manifests, because the
Right.
low impulse control could not, number one, it could not manifest in a negative, what we might view as a negative way, right? There are many impulsive habits that are not necessarily bad, but also overcommitment. Like in the workplace, we see
Yeah.
that a lot, right? Your impulse control is lower, your stress is high, so you're comfortable with that pressure, and you just want to say yes to everything.
Yes. Well, when I'm looking at an EQI report and I see a very high stress tolerance in a leader, I always give them the warning, your scale for stress is off the average person.
Do not expect other people
Yes,
to
and
have
i.e.
that
your
same-
team.
Yes, i.e. all the poor
Yes.
people behind you that are struggling right now to get all your commitments done because you're like, oh, everything's great. I'm not feeling a lot of stress. You know, we can shorten that deadline. We can add that other deliverable on here. And meanwhile, you've got a team who might be dying because their tolerance for stress is not what yours is. So you can't assume everyone is like you
Yes.
in those cases.
Yes. And I get that feeling. I get high stress tolerance, low impulse control, and wanting to just keep chugging down the tracks, right? You don't want to take the minute to say, "Hey, Steve, can I get that to you next week? I'm kind of in the weeds right now," right? So I'm just going to say, "You asked me for something," and I say, "Yep,
Yeah.
yep." And before you know it, you've got it all under, or you start having it all under control. And then before you know it, the water is like up to your nose and you're wondering how you got here.
Yes. I was coaching somebody one time and I was doing some source interviews for them to get them feedback from their peers and stakeholders. And this person was a project manager. And so very timely, focused, intense, like got her stuff done, but it came at a little bit of a cost in the relationships around her. And when I was talking to her people to get her feedback, they said, we really want her to take more vacation time. Like she always lets her PTO roll, her pay time off roll. And we really think she needs time off because we're worried she's just going to burn herself out. But also, we need a break from her. So I had to kind of quote that to her and say, listen, not only are they worried for you, they need a break from you.
Right. Where stress tolerance is concerned, if I could share any advice that I try to utilize myself, it's recognizing myself when I'm beginning to do things that are out of the ordinary because my stress level is at a point where I just can't function effectively anymore. Those are the times that I'll stub my toe or I'll just bump my head when I'm walking through a door and I'm like, wait a minute.
So clumsy. See, everyone's got a thing, right?
Yeah.
That's their tell.
Yeah.
Mine, I've noticed, is when I travel, especially, if I start leaving things behind, that is my yellow flag that my stress is starting. Now, I won't feel it I won't feel the stress.
Yes.
But once, we laughed yesterday about how many times I've left a credit card behind, which in our 20 years together, how many times has it happened? Twice.
Yes.
Right? Twice. Yep. It doesn't happen often, but when it does, that's my sign, and now your sign, that my stress is at a point where I got to start paying attention to this.
Right.
Yes.
So we all have a tell.
Yeah.
And they were back to back at a very during a very busy time.
So the goal is to have that awakening myself before someone else tells me, you need to calm down.
Yeah. Audit. Self-auditing.
There you go.
Or someone who knows you well.
Yeah.
Always feel free to enlist a peer or friend or a
loved one.
It's not somebody who can be this, because sometimes when you're in the midst of, when you're in the eye of the hurricane, you don't feel the wind.
Right. Yeah. Great. Okay. Well, lively conversation. I love it. Again, another huge topic we could spend more time on, but hopefully we've given you some good ideas today and increased some self-awareness around this concept of impulse control and stress tolerance. Thanks so much for listening. And if you have any suggestions or ideas, or you want help on a challenge that you're having, please feel free to reach out at podcasts@jenshirkani.com. We'd love to help you out. Thanks for listening. Thanks for joining us today on the Ego versus EQ and You podcast. If you liked this episode, be sure to follow us or subscribe on your favorite podcast platform, and please share our show with others. For questions or future topic suggestions, please email us at podcast@jenshirkani.com. Until next time, keep using your EQ and show ego who's boss.